Hey guys, I'm Chris. From being surrounded by killer bees to covered by caterpillars, here are 9 of the craziest bug infestations of all time. Number 9. Plague of Locusts. Now, for those of you who know the Bible, or even those of you who know about stories that are most popular from the Bible, you know about the tales of Moses and the plagues of Egypt. One of the most popular and horrifying was the one with the swarm of locusts that came upon Egypt and were so numerous that they blocked out the sun, sky, and basically all visibility at all. This actually happens sometimes, and it can be pretty scary. A plague of locusts is a real natural disaster. Locusts are related to grasshoppers, but have a weird phase where they all get together and breed and eat. Large swarms form, and they can cause massive damage to agricultural crops. They cause famine and starvation, especially in Africa. The desert locust can be found in the Middle East, Africa, and Asia, and it can cover up to 1/5 of the Earth's surface. Now, because of changing weather patterns, they are expanding and going to places they never used to go, like Argentina, for example. So now pretty much anywhere can be in trouble. According to National Geographic, a desert locust swarm can be 460 square miles in size and pack between 40 and 80 million locusts into less than half a square mile. Argentina is expecting a swarm of locusts, and they've been spraying pesticides frantically in an attempt to save the crops. So you're probably wondering, why don't we just get rid of all of them? Well, locusts are an important part of the ecosystem, but when the weather is good and they all get together, be very afraid. Number 8. Spider meter maid. One of the things that is most horrifying about insects and arachnids is that they can literally live just about anywhere as long as their needs are met, which is why it's crazy to see a massive spider complete with nest and young ones on an energy meter. This picture, taken back in 2015, it's a sight to behold in every way that matters, and it's scary beyond all reason. For if you were the energy guy who had to check the meter for the house, you probably wouldn't get too close to that thing, or else you just fear the wrath of Mama Spider and her little younglings. Personally, I'd probably just fake the number on the meter, or look up what their previous numbers were in the last months and just go with that one to save time, money, effort, and the risk of potential death from hundreds of tiny spider bites. The conversation turned not to how or why the spider decided to lay her eggs there, but rather what kind of spider it was. A consensus wasn't ever reached. Number 7. Mosquitoes at the airport. Bugs and other creepy crawlies don't annoy all people. Some people can be fascinated with ants or spiders, but everyone is annoyed by mosquitoes. They suck. Literally, they infect people with diseases and can potentially kill all of humanity if they're given the chance. So when a swarm of them started to bother construction workers at LaGuardia Airport back in 2017, you know that those workers were annoyed. You don't have to believe me, I've got some testimony. It's been very annoying. They're everywhere when you're walking around, said Michael Vasquez. He's 30 and a customer service agent at Terminal B. So what causes the infestation? Well, the airport in New York was getting some massive construction done, and when they started doing it, the mosquitoes flew right in and started to pest all the people outside of the airport. It was sudden and never-ending and very, very annoying. What's worse, though, was that other factors taken during the construction, like the creation of a spring, caused even more mosquitoes to come. Another issue was that the Zika virus was very prominent at the time, and workers could have been infected with it if they were bitten by carriers. Thankfully for all, the issue was taken care of. And just FYI, mosquitoes were indeed hurt or killed in the rebuilding of this airport. Number 6. Caterpillars in Rhode Island. One of the most ironic things about infestations is that sometimes they're a natural part of the circle of life. A great example of this is something that happened back in 2016 in Rhode Island, when literally millions of caterpillars hatched from their eggs and then went to town on local forests in the region. Because of all these caterpillars eating leaves from the trees, you could actually see the change in terrain from space. Think about how many trees had to be eaten up by these caterpillars to be noticed from the sky above. This was exactly what happened, and some even fear it could happen every spring should things not change. One of the biggest factors in this infestation is dry weather, as that limits the trees springing forth leaves, and that forces the caterpillars and other creatures to go to many other trees in order to be fed properly. But just as odd, in 2017, when the caterpillar infestation was about to return, they had a massive rainstorm, which apparently activated loads of fungus, and that killed all the caterpillars, sparing the trees for at least that year. Number 5. Bees in the walls. When it comes to bees, there's usually one incontrovertible truth. You just don't mess with them, and then they don't mess with you. But for one Jose Pera in Houston, Texas, she really couldn't do that because the bees were making residence in her house, like literally within her house, as in inside the walls and roof of her house. To her credit and to the patience of a saint, she allowed the bees to reside within her walls and ceiling for over 2 years. I don't think I could last 2 days, let alone 2 years, all that buzzing. But eventually she did get tired of it and literally tore down the walls and ceiling of her house so she could get rid of the bees. When she did, she found hundreds of thousands of them living within her home. The one and only bright side to this is that after renovating her house, she actually got to keep 200 pounds of honey that the bees had made. That's a lot of cooking you can do with that. Or, you could sell it. That works too. Number 4, spider web fields. Spiders are creatures that many fear, and one big fear is walking into a spider web with spiders in them. So imagine the horror when someone who fears arachnids finds out that in places like Australia and New Zealand, there are entire fields covered in spiders and spider webs. What might surprise you is that this is a natural occurrence. You see, in areas like Australia, New Zealand, and even Pakistan one time, there would be massive floods in the national homes of the spiders. Knowing that they had to get away to survive, they would flee to fields, and once they got there, they would basically overlay the entire area with their webs, giving an oddly beautiful but very scary look to the area. Eventually, the spiders move back to their original homes, but when they consume the fields, it's completely consuming, and many people stay away from the fields when they do. In Memphis, Tennessee in 2015, there was a field of spider webs half a mile long. How about you picture that and then try to sleep tonight? Number 3, the mystery of Burning Man. The Burning Man Festival is an annual music event, and as such, the party has been known to have some interesting things going on. But in 2015, the California Desert Party had some unexpected guests. Bugs. Swarms of them. Ones that were so small and numerous that they were hurting the guests and actually causing serious health issues because of sanitation problems. Here's the rub though. No one knew what these bugs were. And what's more, why or how they got to that point in the desert without issue. The incident was so insane that one of the runners of the show actually had to go to their own website to confirm that it was real. They said, "You may have seen the bug rumors on the internet, and we are here to tell you that they are true." Well, maybe not all the rumors, but the bug rumors are real. They're everywhere. They bite, they crawl all over you. We don't know how the little critters survive in the heat and sun. All we know is that if you pick up some wood, you're likely to uncover hundreds or thousands of the things. They've blown up inches deep against the sides of the commissary tent. They've covered the carpets at the depot. They're all over the man base, so it's not a localized occurrence. It's everywhere. Now, we're both wondering, what were the culprits? According to experts, it was some sort of seed bug. One that was looking for food and water at the festival, and they were actually throwing up on people, which caused massive welts and just a terrible stink. Number 2, swarm of grasshoppers. Not to be confused with swarms of locusts, because trust me, they're different animals. Grasshoppers have been known to swarm on occasion, but one of the most notable swarms in history was one that happened in 2014 in Albuquerque, New Mexico. In fact, it was so bad that they dubbed it the worst infestation in 20 years. And as if that wasn't enough, the swarms could actually be picked up on radar. Albuquerque has not seen these levels of grasshoppers since the early mid-1990s, said John R. Garlish, extension agent at Bernalillo County Cooperative Extension Service. As for the radar part, that wasn't the New Mexico people talking about it, rather it was the National Weather Service. You know, the people who help predict and relay weather to the entire United States. The clouds of grasshoppers were so thick that it was confusing the radar into thinking that they were clouds of rain. We've actually been noticing the insects on radar since about Memorial Day, said NWS spokesman David Kraft. We have noticed the greatest impact on the radar during the evening, but they are noticeable at other times of the day too. Sadly, the only thing the residents could do was wait it out, and eventually they would leave. And they did. Number 1, Asian giant hornets. Just saying that title makes me terrified, and it also makes me glad that I don't live in Asia, and thus I'm not in the range of these terrifying killers from above. And yes, I do mean killers, as these massive hornets aren't just menacing, they have the power to be lethal. In China in 2013, there was a massive swarm of these hornets that spread across the land. By the end of the swarm's time, they had killed 42 people. And you might be thinking, what makes these hornets so lethal? Well, first, they're huge in terms of size. They can grow up to 1.5 inches. 2, their stings are so powerful and potent in terms of poison that they can actually dissolve your skin, as well as shut down your kidneys. And while only 42 people were killed, over 1,500 more were injured during the swarm. And because of allergies, even more were at risk of getting hurt. Alright guys, that does it for this list. Thanks for watching. Have you ever had a bad bug infestation? How about you let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe so that we can see you next time on World List.